Teachers, what's the darkest thing you've seen from a student? Our school had a selective mute kid that graduated last year. Kids were calling him Fish Boy. It turns out he was buying fish and killing them in various ways on Instagram, based on people's requests in the comments. What the fuck? He needs help. The Instagram requesters also do. Agreed. The one is sadistic and the others are, well, sadistic. Instantly. This might be a future serial killer. I don't know if there is any research to back this up, but it seems like the people who are obsessed with killing animals are the ones who end up as serial killers or threaten to shoot up schools and stuff like that. Where I went to high school was in a rural area and many of my classmates were hunters. There was one kid 3 years behind me and he hunted, but he was obsessed with hunting to a weirdly extreme level, posting pictures of the animals he killed and his guns every day on Instagram. He ended up threatening to shoot up the school one day and he never came back. In elementary school we had a kid with a severe peanut allergy and a teacher caught some kids rubbing peanut butter on the opening of his water bottle. We also had a kid who could describe in detail about how to prepare heroin. For some reason the peanut butter story bothered me more than the little heroin chemist. Intentional harm, knowing it would seriously harm/kill the kid, versus a kid who possibly had too much time on their hands and free roam access to Google. Edit. I was trying to give benefit of the doubt for the drug kid because it was a possibility and I truly hope that was how they learned it and not from their home life. It's terrible reading all of these replies and seeing just how many people learned these things as a kid. I've seen some bad crap and learned stuff too. Just sucks seeing how prominent it really is. My wife works in a low-income area. One of her students said I don't need to read because I can just steal copper like my daddy. It's truly sad. Kid seemed down and I asked him to please tell me what was wrong. Not today, but when you're ready. I was his last class of the day and he promised he would. End of the year comes and he told me his brother killed himself. He said he thought about the same many times, but always remembered that he had made me a promise. I made him promise to call me if he ever thought he might again, and he promised me again. He's doing amazingly well and is about to graduate from college. Doing amazing work. Recently lost a best friend to mental illness and makes a world of difference having someone like you in their social network. You're an amazing teacher and human. You're a kind soul. You/fuck off. I'm a teacher. A student saw one of my former co-teachers at some point with his wife and thought she was hot, and my co-teacher took advantage of this to get the student to secretly record his sister taking showers and shit. He offered videos of his wife performing sexual acts on / with him to the student in exchange. He finally got caught when the student blackmailed the teacher into trying to get the wife to fuck him, and when he proposed it to his wife, she called the cops. Imagine being so far gone that you ask your wife, hey, wanna sleep with this kid? I've been sending him videos of us in return for pics of his sister and expecting it to go somewhat okay. Being a manipulative fuck, I'm assuming he tried implanting the idea without success, escalating to the point where he said fuck this kid or my life is over. And her response was your life is over anyway. I taught welding and metal sculpture at the high school level for a year. One morning, one of my students, a quiet, awkward, but really nice young man, came into class and asked me for a band-aid. I asked him what for, and he replied that it was for a burn. Class hadn't started yet for the day. He showed me, and it was a fresh 2nd degree burn that was already blistering. It was in the shape of an A. Some kids, if I'm going to be honest, they were bottom performers and troublemakers from a different class of mine, had swiped a small metal letter from one of my supply bins, heated it with a lighter, and then branded this kid on the morning school bus. He had let the kids do it because he really wanted to fit in. He didn't have many friends and these kids had seemed cool because they were always acting out. As a mandatory reporter, I reported it. The police got involved. Other than that, I have no idea what else happened. That gave me cold shivers. Why are people, and especially kids, it seems like so prone to Lord of the Flies type stuff so easily, still developing frontal lobe to a degree? Until roughly age 24 a person is literally at a reduced ability to reason/empathize among other things because the frontal lobe is still developing. It's partially why young men make better soldiers. Can a child be over empathetic? Empathy isn't a binary thing, it is fluid and has a lot of different aspects. A lot of kids might be overly sensitive to the emotions of people around them or in their environment and hyper alert to any changes, especially if they have experienced abuse or neglect by their caregivers, or might be more easily upset by violent or distressing things, etc. Some might show these traits in some environments but not others. E.g. a kid might get very upset if something bad happens to a character in a story they are being told, but may act in a cruel way to a friend without showing consideration to how it would affect them. But as was said above, empathy doesn't fully develop until a little bit later in life. Girl was going through a lot. Unprompted told me that her older brother died in Iraq recently and that was why she was having such a rough time. I tell all her teachers so they know it's thing to be aware of. I'm super nice with her and supportive. Eventually I tell the counselor and he calls home to ask if the family needs anything. Turns out she has never had a brother. Edit FYI, she was 11 years old. My sister did that to around the same age. Told kids at school our dad was not her real dad, but that her real father died in Vietnam. I don't think my dad ever got over that one. It was just a precursor of more lies to come. It is like a weird junior take on stolen valor. I have also known children who sold others on losing a loved one in the line of some kind of duty. I think for different reasons and to different degrees. I guess it's a thing. Strange. I did this when I was 3 at daycare. My dad had just started traveling a lot for work and someone must have asked where he was. I said he was dead. My mother was mortified when she picked me up and I went to a child psychologist for a month. Turns out 3-year-old me just wasn't grasping that dad wasn't dead, he was just in Topeka, Kansas. Pretty much the same thing. I had a kid who really wanted his parents to come to his graduation ceremony, but they were both sex offenders and couldn't be on campus. He just wanted someone there to support him. Not to defend sex offenders, but sometimes the law is written in such a way that not all sex offenders are actual creeps. My case, when we were 22, a good friend of mine ended up becoming a sex offender. His crime? Getting drunk at a beach bar in Panama City Beach, Florida, stumbling out to the surf at 2 AM, and taking a whiz in the ocean. His genitalia was exposed in public and an overzealous judge dropped the hammer on him. Worst part is that he truly is a decent dude and now that's going to follow him for quite some time. It's so shitty that guys like your friend, or a guy who was 18 and had sex with his 17-year-old GF are considered sex offenders and put in the same category as legit child rapers and kiddie porn makers. People just see sex offender and immediately think the worst. Unfortunately for those people, there aren't many willing to step up and change the system because no politician wants to be seen as defending sex offenders. I had a 3rd grader tell me in excruciating detail about every time that he's been removed from a home, starting with how he was taken from his mother at 2 because they found drugs in his crib. Imagine the toughest baddest little dude you can and multiply the attitude by 100. He wrote me a note at the end of the year saying that I was a great teacher because he knew I loved him even when he was bad. It has been and will always be the best note I ever get from a student. In that same class, I had a little boy try to cut his wrists with scissors saying that he didn't want to be here anymore. Cops came to interview him and said they were just kid scissors, so it wasn't a big deal. Thankfully, mom took it seriously and got him the help he needed. Those cops are dumb. The intent should be what matters, not the weapon. I completely agree. A list simply entitled "The List" with a few students' names and my co-teacher's name on it was a student with some serious behavioral disabilities on it who admitted it was a kill list. Edit. RIP my inbox. Lots of people on here who experienced something similar. No, this was not recent. The student received appropriate support after this incident. Well, hey, at least this means you were the fun teacher. Jesus, this list is AWH. He likes me enough to not murder me. I've got 2. I had a student casually tell me about how he pulled the eyes out of his rabbit's head. He explained how there was blood everywhere. This was my first day working as a supply teacher at that school and my first conversation with the student. I later brought it up to support staff and they were shocked he mentioned it to me. Apparently he killed his rabbit because his mom loved it more than she loved him. The boy was now in foster care as his mother was a drug addict. He shared a lot of really dark stuff with me that day. Another one, more sad than dark, was at a different school. Students had to write their address for an assignment, but this 4th grade girl didn't know hers. Another student asked me, do you know where the so and so motel is? She lives there. Really broke my heart, as this girl was so young and innocent, and didn't really understand how unfortunate her living situation was as she proudly googled the motel and found her address. Really low income part of town. Have you kept in touch with that first student? Just, wow. Sounds like the kid would have been in elementary school, since he wasn't aware not to tell people. Doubt they kept in touch. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share the video with your friends and family and turn on notifications to never miss a video.